On Bishop Hill, Perth and Kinross, Scotland. Aye, this would have been the great entrance unto the fairy underworld. Go there and put your ear to the slab of rock that formed the doors. Listen to the sounds of the fairy music, as many a shepherd lad has done in the past, and remember the old rhyme. On Lamon slopes of Warlock's Green, and fairy brownies danced. They onca tales o' old lang syne held yonkers oft entranced. Though separated by some distance, the stone pillar known as Carlin, Maggie, and the Devil's Burden Rock field are linked in a story of witchcraft that has been told to youngsters at many a fireside hearth in the Bishopshire from one generation to the next on fearful nights when wind and weather foul enveloped the townships at the foot of Lamond Hills. Maggie was a Carlin, a lowland Scots word for old hag or a witch. She lived under her daughter on the moor within the sight of the Vesterbaldi, and frequently consorted with the witches and the warlocks and fairies, and to be found in these parts. Her spells and her potions were legendary in the Kinross Shire, and her ability to communicate with the devil was talked about in every household, from Armuch Bridge to the Crook of Devon. It was always best to give Maggie a wide berth, unless you needed to sell your soul in exchange for a favour, or wished to sup with the devil. To prove that she was the most powerful presence in all of the land, Carlin Maggie decided one day to challenge the devil. Now, when Movlio in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night is incited by Sir Toby Belk to defy the devil, he warns him that to speak evil of the devil is a dangerous thing to do. Maggie took no heed of the misgivings of her sister Carlins and confronted Satan, challenging him to a contest of strength. Who was more powerful, the devil or Carlin Maggie? Both insulted and amused by her temerity, the devil agreed to accept this challenge. The meeting place was the wind and the weather line at the head of the Forbray at Bishop Hill. The time was midnight. It was a wild night, such as had rarely been seen in all of the Bishopshire before. The wind blew with unimaginable force from all directions, and the waters of Loch Leven whipped into a fury, reflected a sky torn asunder, with lightning from horizon to horizon. Deafening thunder shook each house in the valley to its foundations, and to the shutters of every window remained closed tight, not a soul daring to peek out even for a moment to witness the contest. Carlin Maggie, with her fearful daughter hanging on to the hem of her mother's flapping gown, sent powerful shafts of lightning skyward in an attempt to outdo the devil's onslaught. Shaft after shaft was delivered, until, with nothing left to throw at the devil, the witch and her quivering child looked up at the sky that seemed to turn darker and darker by the minute. For a while, the wind died down to a whisper, and the thunder and the lightning abated. Was the battle over? Had Carlin Maggie triumphed? But then, out of nowhere, a steely cold wind arose, starting as a light breeze wafting along the wind and weatherline from Kilmagad Wood. It picked up speed, whistling past the fairy doors, White Craigs and the Pinnels toward the luckless pair. Within minutes, Maggie and her daughter were caught up in a tempest of immense force. The wind blew and blew, reaching a crescendo that even frightened the old hag herself. Ghostly apparitions appeared, swooping and swirling about the doomed couple, warning them that the devil was on his way. "Your fate you cannot now avoid," crackled one demon. Your prison awaits, laughed another. Suddenly, without warning, the wind died away and the apparitions disappeared. A second later, huge boulders began to fall from the sky like massive hailstones. Helpless to defend herself, Maggie surrendered to the storm of rocks hurled down on her by the devil, and within minutes found herself imprisoned in a tomb of stone. Having won the battle with plenty of stones to spare, the devil dropped the remainder of his burden on the slopes of West Lamont before disappearing triumphant into the night. If you want to see the devil's burden today, go to the Glenvale and look for the boulder-strewn hillside. One of the stones which fell short of its mark split almost in two as it landed in the turf of the wind and the weather line. Ever after known as the River Stone, this rock came to be as a boundary stone in the 18th century when the common of the Bishop Hill was divided amongst the townships and the farms of Bishopshire. It conveniently found itself not only on the border between the Fore Bray and the Back Bray, but also in the march between the lands of Kinniswood and Balnathill. As for the wicked witch Maggie and her unfortunate daughter, the devil decreed that they would remain imprisoned in stone until wind and weather set them free. Sadly, Carlin Maggie has not survived her imprisonment. The devil allowed the wind and the weather to take its course, but not in the way that everyone expected. In a cruel twist of fate, the old woman was decapitated in the 1980s when an icy frost in partnership with a bitter cold winter wind sliced off her head, which tumbled down into the quarry below. Perhaps Carlin Maggie's daughter, also entombed amidst the boulders, may someday be freed by wind and weather and allowed to take her revenge. But beware, a headless ghost has been seen in the Weatheringhome quarry near Wester Balgdy. Could this be our Maggie? And that is the story of ancient times, the old folklore from Scotland and other regions where hailstones fell from the sky, where rocks and boulders were created up above and rained down upon us during an apocalyptic event. Did these things happen? Are they true? Could there be some truth to these ancient stories? I leave that, my friends, to you. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ, and I'm saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easy
Only you in this vast multiverse.
Your powers collide.